I want to always promise you one thing, being responsive. Being responsive and someone that you can count on being responsive. Because in this day and age and the things we deal with, there is no excuse for a public official not to be responsive to those he represents. I may not always agree with you. We may not always be on the same page on a political issue, but you can always count on one thing. You're going to get a call back. You're going to get an email back. You're going to hear back from me on it. And I may be calling you back to say no. I may be calling you back to say absolutely. But you're always going to hear back from me. And that's going to be no different if I'm a House of Representatives or I'm in the Alabama Senate. And I promise, and that's the one thing I can promise you today. Montgomery, really and truly, unfortunately, is starting to see some of the same problems that has poisoned the atmosphere in Washington, D.C. today. You know, the weapon of choice in politics, unfortunately, in many corridors in Montgomery and also in Washington have been to yell and demagogue and personally attack those who you're against or you're on the opposite side of the aisle. And we've got to change that. We really do. And that's not just against Democrats. That's Democrats and Republicans are going to have to change. The days are going to have to leave us by when I stand out on the corner and say, vote for me because the other side is so bad. Well, that doesn't really inspire people, and it doesn't really give the kind of hope we need. And I hope the last 7 years I've proved that with my legislative record, and I hope in the future I can prove I'm that kind of person as well. You know, the last 7 years I've been blessed with the opportunity to work on some issues that I feel like have had a huge impact in this area. Now, I haven't won all my political fights, I'll be the first to admit. If I were a basketball coach, I'd probably be like 4-12. But at the same time, I can promise you this, if there was a fight that affected this area, you know good and well I was right in the middle of it. I mean, I was there for us, and I'll continue being there for us. We need ethics reform in Alabama. Not a day goes by when we don't see something in the paper today regarding ethics trouble, state, local, federal government. We see it day to day. But do you know that we're the only ethics commission in the United States of America today that does not allow them to have subpoena power? How can a state that has gone through the ethical troubles that we've gone through the last several years deny the tools necessary to investigate public corruption? We've got to change that. That's my bill right now, and I'm working to pass it, not yesterday, but this session, tomorrow. We've got to get this done. You know, for too long in Alabama, we have dealt along with the old George Wallace days, unfortunately, where my best friend or whoever voted for me is going to be the one who gets a road project in their district. And it's a real simple concept. How about we start building roads based upon where it's needed the most, like out here on 52 or 261. Why don't we start building those roads where they're needed at? And the only way to do that is do what 33 other states have done, and that is create an independent transportation commission that looks at a road project and says, well, this is where the traffic count is. This is where the building and development is going up at. That's where we should build the road. We've passed that bill now 5 times out of the Alabama House of Representatives. It has never passed the Alabama Senate, and that is one of the good things I hope I can do if I get to be your senator next time. You adopt a sales tax holiday, and people get to take money off of the school supplies and the things they're buying for their kids for schools. In this day and age, when we know how tough things are, how tough the economy is, there's more we can do. Tax policies like that are smart, and I've always been a proponent of them, and I'll continue being a proponent of them. You have a clear choice. In Alabama, you have to have a balanced budget. You can't spend yourself into a deficit like Washington is doing, and we don't want to do that. We can't do that. We have got to hold the line on spending. And I know that's hard for government to do sometimes. I know that's tough because sometimes we face deep cuts. We have to protect those programs like education that we know are important, but at the same time, we have to be willing to say no more spending. If we don't cut back on the spending we have, our economy will take that much longer to get out of the economic hole we're in. I feel like I have a very good conservative track record in the House of Representatives for you. But I'd be giving you the wrong idea, and I'd be asking you for your vote for the wrong reason if I asked you just to vote for me for the things I've done in the past. I'm asking you to vote for me because of the things I tell you I think I can do in the future. Things I can do for us tomorrow and next year and the years after. Because that's also what's just equally as important. I want to be someone who is a hopeful politician to you. I want to be someone who's hopeful in that. We don't always agree. There's certain things in state government I'm opposed to, and I'll stand up and fight them when they do come up. I was proud to do that on the legislative pay raise, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'll continue opposing those things. But there's also things that we can be for. And I feel like that's a message that needs to go out to both Democrats and Republicans today, that we have to start finding an agenda to say, I am for something. I am for this. I am for pushing this. A great example, we were talking earlier this morning with a group of school teachers down in Clanton, Alabama, and one of the first things we talked about was a proposal that I co-sponsored with Representative Greg Canfield of Vestavia. Just another good common sense idea, which is quite simply this. Right now, when we budget for the education budget in Alabama, we guesstimate as to how much money we think we're going to bring in next year. Oftentimes, those guesses can be wildly wrong, which leads to proration. He's got a bill right now that, in my opinion, is one of the best budget solutions we've had in a long time, and that is look at growth in our state budget over the last 15 years. And whatever that average is, that's what you base your next year's budget upon. It's very consistent, and it's shown that if we had done that over the last 15 years, instead of going into proration 6 of those 15 years, we might have only gone into proration just once. That is the kind of thing, that's the kind of smart budgeting, conservative budgeting that we can do in the future that would really change the face of Alabama. Public campaign finance disclosures, public ethics disclosures, more disclosure online and in the sunshine and the sunlight of day is good for the people of Alabama. We have a very low opinion in this state. We have a very low opinion of our elected officials. We have a very low opinion of state government. But the only way you're going to change that is to bring more sunshine into the process of what's going on every day. That's how you change that policy. I hope I can be part of that. I've pushed for it in the past, but that's some of the hopeful challenges I'm going to push for in the future.